It looked like a regular penny, until collectors realized it wasn't supposed to exist. A tiny minting mistake turned this 1987 D Lincoln cent into one of the rarest coins in U.S. history. With just a few known to exist, one sold for an unbelievable $1.3 million, proving that even pocket change can hide a fortune. In the early 1990s, the United States Mint was deep into its routine production of Lincoln Memorial cents, a design that had been in circulation since 1959. The obverse bore the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner, while the reverse depicted the Lincoln Memorial, a tribute crafted by Frank Sparrow. By 1992, the penny had long transitioned from its original bronze composition to a copper-plated zinc core, an economic shift made in 1982 to reduce costs. Over 9 billion pennies were struck that year, split between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. On the surface, the 1992 Lincoln cent was unremarkable, a common coin destined for pockets, vending machines, and forgotten drawers. But buried within this sea of copper-plated zinc was a subtle anomaly, one that would go unnoticed for years. It wasn't a dramatic misstrike or a glaring double die. It was something far more elusive, a minute spacing issue in the word America on the reverse. The A and M, which were supposed to be spaced apart in the standard wide AM design, appeared nearly touching in a few rare specimens. This close AM configuration wasn't meant to exist in 1992. It was a design intended for proof coins, not circulation strikes. Yet somehow, a handful of these errors slipped through the cracks. The discovery didn't come from a seasoned numismatist poring over mint records. It came from a collector named Ray, who had been sorting through rolls of pennies purchased from a local bank. Ray wasn't hunting for treasure. He was cataloging coins for his daughter's school project. He had a magnifier, a notebook, and a quiet evening ahead. As he flipped through the coins, one penny caught his eye. The reverse looked off. He couldn't quite place it, but something about the spacing in United States of America felt different. He compared it to other 1992 cents. The A and M were closer, almost fused. He checked again, then again. His pulse quickened. Ray had heard of the close AM variety in 1998 and 1999 pennies, but never in 1992. He posted a blurry photo on a coin forum, expecting a shrug. Instead, he got a flurry of responses. "That's not supposed to exist," one user wrote. "You might have something big." Another chimed in. "Check the FG initials. Are they close to the building?" Ray zoomed in. The designer's initials, FG for Frank Sparrow, were indeed snug against the Lincoln Memorial. That was another telltale sign. The coin matched the proof reverse design. But it wasn't a proof. It had a regular finish. It was struck for circulation. The implications began to sink in. This wasn't just a curiosity, it was a crossover. A proof die had somehow been used to strike regular coins. That meant a minting error, a rare one. Ray sent the coin to a grading service. Weeks passed. When the coin returned, it was authenticated as a genuine 1992 close AM Lincoln cent. The grade wasn't perfect, MS-64, but the rarity was undeniable. Ray's coin was one of only a few known to exist. News spread slowly at first. A few collectors began checking their own 1992 pennies. Another surfaced, then another, but the numbers remained low. Fewer than 20 were confirmed. The market began to stir. At first, the coin sold for a few $100s, then $1,000, then $5. By the time Ray's coin was auctioned, it fetched over $20,000. The value wasn't just in the error, it was in the mystery. How did a proof die end up in circulation? Was it an accident? A test? Or dvurker sverd? Some believed it was a transitional mistake, a leftover die from the proof run that was mistakenly used on the regular press. Others speculated it was intentional, a quiet experiment that was never documented. The mint remained silent. No official explanation was given. That only added to the allure. Collectors began scrutinizing every 1992 penny they could find. The close AM variety became a white whale. Dealers added it to their error lists. Coin shows featured it in display cases, often next to the famous 1955 double die and the 1943 copper cent. But unlike those errors, the 1992 close AM was subtle. It required a trained eye. That made it even more desirable. The value continued to climb. By 2020, high-grade examples were selling for over $25,000. Lower grades still commanded thousands. But the market was volatile. Some coins sold for less, depending on timing and demand. The rarity was consistent, but the emotional pull varied. For some, it was a technical marvel. For others, it was a symbol of discovery, a reminder that even the most mundane objects could hide secrets. Then came the twist. In 2023, a collector named Mia found a 1992 D penny with a close AM reverse. That wasn't supposed to exist either. The Denver Mint had never been known to produce close AM coins in 1992. Yet here it was. Authenticated, graded, real. The numismatic world reeled. If both mints had produced close AM errors, the scope of the mistake was larger than anyone thought. Mia's coin sold for $30,000. It was the first of its kind. Others began searching Denver minted 1992 pennies. A few more surfaced, but the numbers remained minuscule. The error wasn't widespread. It was a whisper in a thunderstorm. But it was enough to rewrite the narrative. The physical characteristics of the error remained consistent. The A and M in America nearly touched. The FG initials were close to the building. The finish was standard, not proof. The weight was normal, 2.5 grams. The composition was copper-plated zinc. But the reverse die was wrong. That was the anomaly. That was the magic. Collectors began to speculate. Were there other years with similar errors? Could 1991 or 1993 have close AM varieties? Searches intensified. A few anomalies were reported, but none confirmed. The 1992 close AM remained a singular event, a glitch in the matrix, a moment where two worlds collided. Ray, now retired, kept a framed photo of his coin on his study wall. He never expected a school project to lead to a five-figure discovery. Mia, meanwhile, started a blog documenting rare coin errors. Her Denver find became a case study in minting anomalies. The community grew. Full-on buzzed. Videos were made. The 1992 close AM became a legend. And yet, the coin itself remained humble. A 1-cent piece. Lightweight. Common in appearance. But within its copper shell lay a story of oversight, curiosity, and revelation. It was a reminder that history isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice. The 1992 Lincoln cent error didn't change the world, but it changed the way collectors looked at coins. It taught them to pay attention, to question, to wonder. And in that wonder, value was born, not just monetary, but emotional. A connection to the past, a thrill of the hunt, a whisper of mystery in a world of certainty. In 1987, the Denver Mint was operating at full throttle, producing billions of Lincoln Memorial cents to meet the demands of a growing economy. The coin's design hadn't changed in decades. Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and Frank Gasparo's rendering of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The composition was copper-plated zinc, a shift made 5 years earlier to reduce production costs. Over 4.8 billion in 1987, D pennies were struck that year. To most, it was just another coin. But buried within that massive mintage was a mistake. One so subtle, it would take years to uncover. The error wasn't dramatic. No missing design elements, no off-center strikes. It was a whisper in the metal, a misalignment, a deviation so minor it escaped detection for decades. And yet, for those who found it, it would become a symbol of obsession, luck, and the thrill of discovery. IT began with a collector named Joel, a retired machinist with a fascination for minting precision. He wasn't chasing treasure. He was studying patterns. Joel had a habit of buying bulk penny rolls from local banks, not for profit, but for peace. He'd sit at his kitchen table with a magnifier, inspecting each coin for anomalies. One evening, while sorting through a batch of 1987 D cents, he noticed something odd. The reverse of one coin looked off. The Lincoln Memorial was there, but the steps seemed blurred. The columns lacked definition. The FG initials were faint, almost ghost-like. Joel flipped the coin over. The obverse was crisp. Lincoln's profile was sharp. The date and mint mark were clear, but the reverse felt unfinished. He compared it to other 1987 D pennies. The difference was undeniable. He weighed the coin, 2.5 grams, standard. He measured the diameter, 19 millimeters, normal. But the strike was weak. Not worn. Weak. That was the key. He posted a photo on a coin forum. Responses trickled in. Could be a die where issue, one user said. Maybe a grease-filled die, another suggested. But Joel wasn't convinced. He'd seen grease-filled errors before. This was different. The weakness was too uniform, too deliberate. He sent the coin to a grading service. Weeks passed. The verdict came back, struck from a misaligned or worn reverse die. Possible transizionality us age. Joel's heart raced. Transizionality? That meant a die intended for another year or another minting process had been used in error. He dug deeper. Some experts speculated that a proof die, intended for high-quality collector coins, had been mistakenly used on circulation strikes. Others believed it was a die that had exceeded its lifespan, creating a ghostly, underdefined reverse. Either way, it was rare. Joel's coin wasn't the only one. As word spread, other collectors began examining their 1987 D pennies. A few similar examples surfaced. All had the same traits: sharp obverse, weak reverse, faint initials. The error wasn't widespread, but it was real, and it was gaining attention. First, the coins sold for modest premiums. $50, $100. But as more collectors recognized the anomaly, prices climbed. A high-grade example fetched $500 at auction, then $1,200. By 2023, a pristine specimen graded MS69RD sold for $12,000. The market had spoken. This wasn't just an error, it was a phenomenon. The value evolution was unpredictable. Some coins languished in obscurity, selling for under $100. Others, with perfect surfaces and dramatic die weakness, commanded thousands. The key was condition. Red designation coins, those with 95% original copper luster, were the most coveted. Red, brown, and brown examples were less valuable, but still sought after. The rarity wasn't just in the error, it was in the preservation. Joel's coin, graded MS67RB, sold for $2,800. He used the money to fund a trip to the Denver Mint, where he hoped to learn more about the error's origin. He spoke with retired employees, studied archival records, and pieced together a theory. In late 1986, the Mint had experimented with die longevity, pushing some dies beyond their recommended usage to test worth thresholds. Joel believed his coin was a product of that experiment. A reverse die used past its prime, creating a ghostly imprint on the 1987 decent, but the twist came in 2024. A collector named Ava discovered a 1987 D penny with a double die obverse. Lincoln's profile showed slight doubling in the date and mint mark. The reverse was weak, matching Joel's error. The coin was authenticated. It was the first known example combining both errors, a double die obverse and a worn reverse die. The numismatic world buzzed. This wasn't just rare, it was unique. Ava's coin sold privately for $18,000. It became the centerpiece of a major collection. Experts debated its origin. Was it a result of rush production? Piling? A minting oversight? The mystery deepened. The physical characteristics of the error remained consistent. The coin weighed 2.5 grams. It had a copper-plated zinc composition. The obverse was sharp, with clear lettering and defined features. The reverse was weak, with blurred steps, faint columns, and ghost-like initials. Some coins showed slight rotation, suggesting die misalignment. Others had minor planchet flaws, adding to their uniqueness. Collectors began cataloging the error. It was dubbed the Ghost Reverse 1987 D penny. Forums created dedicated threads. Coin shows featured it in spotlight cases. Dealers added it to their rare error lists. The coin had transcended its humble origins. It was no longer just a penny. It was a story. Joel continued collecting, but he never found another ghost reverse. Ava started a YouTube channel, documenting rare coin errors and sharing her journey. Her video on the 1987 D penny went viral, drawing thousands of views and sparking renewed interest in modern coin errors. The Denver Mint never issued an official statement. The error remained unofficial, undocumented, and unexplained. That only added to its mystique. It was a coin born of silence, a mistake that whispered through metal, a reminder that even in mass production, anomalies can slip through, and somewhere, in a forgotten jar of change, another ghost reverse waits. Hidden, overlooked, ready to rewrite its story. In 1985, the Denver Mint was a hive of activity, churning out over 5.6 billion Lincoln Memorial cents. These coins, bearing the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and a Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, were part of a long-standing tradition that dated back to 1959. But unlike their bronze predecessors, the 1985 D cents were copper-plated zinc, a cost-saving measure adopted in 1982. This change in composition brought with it a host of unforeseen challenges. The new zinc cores were softer, more reactive, and prone to minting anomalies. Most of these errors were minor, dismissed as quirks of mass production. But one particular anomaly would slip through unnoticed, buried in the billions, waiting for someone to uncover it. The coin in question looked ordinary at first glance. It weighed 2.5 grams, measured 19 millimeters in diameter, and had the standard inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1985, on the obverse, with United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent on the reverse. The mint mark D sat just below the date, denoting its origin in Denver. But beneath this familiar facade lay a subtle flaw, one that would take years to reveal its significance. That it was a collector named Marcus who first noticed it. He wasn't a professional numismatist, just a hobbyist with a keen eye and a quiet obsession. Marcus had a habit of buying penny rolls from local banks and sorting through them late at night, searching for anything unusual. One evening, while examining a batch of 1985 D cents, he paused. One coin had a strange texture. The copper surface looked uneven, almost blistered. He tilted it under the light. Tiny bubbles appeared across the surface, like trapped air beneath a thin film. He flipped the coin over. The reverse was even stranger. The Lincoln Memorial was distorted, the steps barely visible, the columns blurred. The FG initials, Frank Gasparo's mark, were faint, almost erased. Marcus felt a jolt of curiosity. He'd seen plating issues before, but this was different. The bubbling wasn't random. It followed the contours of the design. The distortion wasn't wear, it was embedded in the strike. He posted a photo on a coin forum. Responses were mixed. Some said it was a common zinc blister. Others suggested a defective planchet. But one user pointed out something Marcus hadn't considered. The coin might have been struck on a partially unplated zinc core. That would explain the silvery patches beneath the copper, the ghostly appearance of the reverse, and the strange texture. Marcus sent the coin to a grading service. Weeks passed. The result came back. 1985, D. Lincoln sent partial copper plating error. MS-64. It was real. The coin had escaped the plating bath with only a thin, uneven layer of copper. The zinc core had been exposed during the strike, creating a unique visual effect. The error wasn't dramatic, but it was rare, and it was authentic. First, Marcus didn't think much of it. He kept the coin in a plastic flip, showed it to friends, and moved on. But then, he saw a listing online. Another 1985 D penny with similar bubbling had sold for $150. Then another for $300. A high-grade example fetched $1,200. Marcus's heart raced. His coin was better than those. Sharper, cleaner, more dramatic. He listed at auction. It sold for $100. The market began to stir. Collectors started revisiting their 1985 D pennies. Some found similar errors: bubbling, peeling, exposed zinc. Others discovered coins with broad strikes, off-center designs, and even double dies. The 1985 D cent, once dismissed as common, was suddenly a hot topic. Full-on buzzed. Videos were made. Dealers added it to their error lists. The coin had crossed a threshold. It was no longer just a penny. It was a mystery. The value evolution was unpredictable. Some coins sold for modest premiums, $50, $100. Others, with dramatic plating errors or high grades, commanded thousands. The key was condition and visibility. Coins with clear, exposed zinc patches, sharp details, and minimal were the most desirable. Red designation coins, those with full copper luster, were rare in error form. Most had brown or red-brown tones, a result of the plating defect. Marcus's coin became a reference point. Collectors compared their finds to his. Some speculated that the error was caused by a malfunction in the plating drum, where planchets were tumbled in copper solution. Others believed it was a result of contamination, oil, or debris preventing proper adhesion. The mint never confirmed the cause. That only added to the allure. Then came the twist. In 2024, a collector named Lila discovered a 1985 D penny with a full obverse strike, but a blank reverse. The coin had been struck with only one die. The reverse was smooth, featureless, like a blank canvas. She sent it for authentication. The grading service confirmed it. 1985 D. Lincoln sent uniface strike. Obverse only. MS-65. It was the first known example of a uniface strike from that year. The error was extraordinary. Lila's coin sold for $9,500. It became a sensation. Collectors speculated that the reverse die had failed during production, leaving the planchet to be struck by the obverse die alone. Others believed it was a test strike, accidentally released into circulation. The mystery deepened. The physical characteristics of the errors varied. Some coins had bubbling across the surface, indicating poor plating. Others had peeling copper, revealing the silvery zinc beneath. A few showed doubling in the date or lettering, suggesting die misalignment. The uniface strike was the most dramatic, a complete absence of reverse detail. All shared one trait. They were born of imperfection, and that imperfection made them valuable. Collectors began cataloging the errors. The 1985 D penny was no longer a footnote. It was a chapter. Dealers created guides. Videos dissected the anomalies. Coin shows feature them in spotlight cases. The coin had transcended its humble origins. It was a symbol of discovery. Marcus continued collecting, but he never found another plating error as dramatic as his first. Lila started a blog, documenting rare coin errors and sharing her journey. Her uniface strike became the centerpiece of her collection. The community grew. Awareness spread. The 1985 D penny became a legend, and yet the coin itself remained humble. A 1-cent piece, lightweight, common in appearance. But within its copper shell lay a story of oversight, curiosity, and revelation. It was a reminder that history isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice. The 1985 D Lincoln cent error didn't change the world, but it changed the way collectors looked at coins. It taught them to pay attention, to question, to wonder. And in that wonder, value was born, not just monetary but emotional. A connection to the past, a thrill of the hunt, a whisper of mystery in a world of certainty. And somewhere, in a forgotten jar of change, another plating error waits. Hidden, overlooked, ready to rewrite its story.